The purpose of the trip was really to provide an international study experience for our MBA students. So we were actually in South Korea for a number of days and then finished up our trip in Japan. We actually arrived in Tokyo the day before the earthquake happened. And when the earthquake happened itself, we were at a business visit with an organization there, unfortunately on the 26th floor of a building. So it was definitely a very frightening experience for many of us and the students that were there. But
and at first we all didn't really know what was going on. Everybody kind of just looked at each other and, do you feel something shaking? Yes, I do. Do you? So we were very lucky that the business that we were meeting with, he was very, very calm, reassured us that these kinds of things happen, and got us all exited out of the building very quickly, calmly, without anybody panicking too much. But down 26 flights of steps does get your heart rate going a little bit normally, especially when the building's shaking and swaying back and forth quite a bit.
Some pretty intense moments, but I think we all did a pretty good job keeping it together and not freaking out too much. An aftershock hit as soon as we were down on the ground floor, so it was a little unnerving to watch some of the buildings moving around, but in the day following, we quickly realized that we were pretty lucky. We were in one of the better places in Japan to be in, I think, while this was happening. Phone calls were pretty much down, probably good several hours. So we initially had trouble getting some calls out. Internet was kind of hit or miss, but internet was working. We were able to get messages back home pretty quickly. We had a bit of a wait checking in. There were quite a few people at the airport, but we didn't have any issues aside from a long check-in line.
We didn't have any way to get back to the hotel besides walking, and then the next day as well, the trains were down too. So you saw lots of people walking that weren't very used to. A lot of the people in Japan are used to using their subway system, so that was kind of a different change of pace for them as well.
After the earthquake and after we found the major subway lines stopped and no transportation, and the students decided to walk from the business place to hotel, 3 hours walking. That means from here downtown Cincinnati to near Mason or Westchester.
it was very busy sidewalks. We were very fortunate, all of us on our return trip back ran into very friendly people that were open arms, willing to help us in any way. So they were always ensuring, checking in with us to make sure we were going in the right direction. I think they saw the Americans with the map out and figured we probably need to help these people.
There was a coffee shop across the street that had a live news feed going on. So although right around us we just saw a few broken windows and conditions were fairly good comparatively, across the street through the news we could see the devastation that was going on.
I consider ourselves very lucky based on many of the people that helped us. For myself personally, we decided that it would be best logistically to probably split up due to the sheer size of people on the streets. So we were given a map by a couple that was in the city, and we figured out where we were and where our hotel was, and never once thought I would use a compass on my phone to get back. And literally used my compass and head due west, and ran into some very gracious and excellent people along the way who were willing to help us, and basically met a guy from London who was willing to, who was walking to the same area where our hotel was, and basically took us a block away from where our hotel was.
After the major earthquake, as you can see here, the headline, the local newspaper, and continuing earthquake until yesterday morning before our departure.
After the earthquake, I think some of the most unnerving experiences was the fact that it felt like it never stopped shaking. You know, we still had quite a few aftershocks and tremors throughout the night, so little sleep throughout the night just due to kind of the uneasiness of being in that type of situation. And those aftershocks, you know, continued until we left.
Frankly, that was the hardest part for me, the aftershock. Like because you don't know what's gonna happen next.
You would wake up in the middle of the night to the hotel shaking, and then you would just listen to the steel kind of creak back in place.
Oh.
So needless to say, there wasn't much sleep that night.
There's sometimes you're like, am I just shaking, or is it really the building? So you could really tell if you saw like a glass of water and the water just splashing around in the glass.
It was the swaying that was a little more unnerving. I was more comfortable being either on the ground or on lower floors because you couldn't feel it as much. You kind of look around and are we moving, or it's just in my head. But if you were up on our hotel, our rooms were on the 18th floor, and so you could really, some of those bigger aftershocks, you could really start to feel the building sway a little bit. And to me, that was more unnerving than the shaking itself.
Everyone acted like one team. We're here together.
The majority of us came onto this trip not really knowing each other very, very well. And again, through this tragedy, as unfortunate as it was, we were able to come back as a closer group of friends than could have ever possibly been possible. We're just glad to be home.